We both think there was election fraud. We just disagree on which election. What are you doing?
Just looking for a few more votes. They're here somewhere.
Let it go.
You let Russia go!
I think he was agitating in my protest.
I think he was agitating at my protest. If you weren't at the protest, then show me your GPS history for January 6th.
I'm not doing this again. I told you I was at my mother's. I guess the root of the problem is we both just changed a little bit.
I used to think destructive protesters were terrorists, and now I think they're patriots.
I used to think the cops were cold-blooded murderers, but now I think the lady who got shot at the Capitol got exactly what she deserved. Guy will do anything Trump tells him to.
You'll do anything the media tells you to. We did one protest and we broke into the Capitol. Wayne's wrecking some deli in Brooklyn.
You broke in and took selfies. Even the Women's March got that place shut down.
Just looking at our news coverage, this is called doing damage, Wayne.
I set a f***ing cop car on fire.
Guy stole some knickknacks from Target. He thinks he's Farrakhan.
You know what? I do actually agree with him. Farrakhan has some good...
Wow. What a lovely couple. They definitely do deserve each other, and actually, they have a lot more in common than they know. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org. A lot of crazy things just getting crazier, and guess what? It's only going to get crazier from here, especially surrounding our political climate that is not only being stifled but ramped up with, of course, the latest censorship efforts that are not just going after Trump supporters, but also individuals like Ron Paul that criticized Donald Trump. There's also more massive political prosecution news that is absolutely far-reaching and extremely dangerous that we're going to be talking about in this video. But before we begin, the video that we started off with is by Ryan Long. If you want to see the full clip, his channel is in the description below. And he, in a very funny way, brings up some important kind of points and perspectives here that we should really be considering, especially during our current tumultuous political climate. Now here on this independent media organization, we wanted to remind you that it has always been emergencies that have been the pretext on which the safeguards of individual liberty have been eroded. That's a quote by Frederick Hayek. It's extremely important, especially in these modern events, as of course we have individuals like George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton, individuals who have a horrid record of committing mass violence in the Middle East, lecturing us about violence, and these same violent offenders are telling us if we just give up our civil liberties, they will make the violence stop. And now, I don't know about you, but personally, that's not a smart thing to do. These are very violent people. The people of Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen have to deal with an insurmountable amount of violence directly by these guys. So I'm sorry, I don't really trust them to stop violence. So yeah, that's happening right now. And as more and more voices that actually call this out and contest what's happening right now are being censored, obfuscated, deleted, shoved down the algorithm memory hole, we are still somehow here, mainly because of your support. Since, of course, we also have been fully demonetized, we started working with companies and organizations that we like and personally use, and one of them is safepreparedandready.com. The link is down in the description below. Click it right now, and you could learn about our 25-year shelf life storable food that's really delicious. Now, of course, if you have issues with sodium and salt, I wouldn't recommend storable food, but if you don't, check them out, since, of course, supporting them also goes towards supporting this independent media broadcast. And let's be honest here, in our current political climate, I think it's smart to have just a little bit of storable food, whether that's even just a bag of rice and beans. Now, specifically talking about that political climate, it definitely seems like the left has a new motto, and in my opinion, it is straight to jail, since, of course, we are seeing a slurry of new bills, of new laws, of new anti-terrorism legislation being proposed, along with, of course, what looks like political prosecution. That, of course, is very evident right now, not only in the battle happening in Congress right now, trying to, of course, impeach the U.S. president for, quote, inciting an insurrection, but also the individuals who stormed the Capitol who might be facing felony murder charges. Yes, prosecutors are now weighing if everyone involved in rushing or walking into the Capitol, when even some police officers stood by and held the doors open, since, of course, these events led to the death of a Capitol police officer, which all of the participants might be facing the charges of. And charging hundreds of people who walked into a building for felony murder, I think is fair to say is a bit excessive, and shows you how this is more of a political matter rather than just a legal one. We're also finding out that law enforcement officials have opened up at least 25 domestic terrorism cases as a, quote, result of the assault on Capitol. All of this as still some very serious questions remain. What happened to the Capitol Police during this event? Why did they deny help and assistance and in some instances totally stand down? You think those would be some important questions that should be answered before moving forward with this massive hammer that's already affecting people who weren't even charged. There's new video footage going around, specifically in airports in Washington, D.C., that allegedly show people who are angry because they were banned from flying, allegedly learning that they are on no-fly lists, even though they haven't been officially charged yet. And again, it's kind of interesting seeing a complete 180 degree from the kind of leftist standpoint of going against the police, the prosecutor's office, the justice system, talking about how unfair it is, to literally becoming one of its greatest cheerleaders. Banning more people, censoring more speech will have the opposite effect of what many people think it will do. And there are some findings and studies that highlight how censorship essentially could lead to more extremism. This is, of course, something that I've been arguing for many years, and this is absolutely something worth considering, especially with current events like the ones at the airport that we are seeing that are ramping up the political situation that will only get out of hand from here. But it's not just Trump supporters getting the boot, getting the hammer. It's also Trump critics like former presidential candidate and U.S. Congressman Ron Paul that, again, without any accountability, without any explanation, Facebook has just blocked from publishing on his own page. And again, we have to understand here, a lot of this is being done all in the name of stopping the incitement of violence, but in reality, it's going to create more violence, and it has nothing to do with that when you're censoring individuals like Ron Paul. He's considered one of the greatest champions of peace, especially when it comes to American foreign policy in history, and now his voice that was critical of Donald Trump is being censored. Again, it's absolutely ridiculous. This censorship will create more problems. As Glenn Greenwald points out, that most of the planning and organizing of events, specifically around Trump, has been done on Facebook and not Parler. Facebook, by the way, that literally live streamed and published a video of a massacre and other horrible atrocities on its own platform and faced no liability for it, but yet a new upstart competitive social media company that also doesn't have the best record, they're the threat that needs to be taken out because of, quote, incitement of violence. I mean, come on. This is absolutely ridiculous, disingenuous, and sits on a huge throne of lies. And as Rob Schneider points out, the idea of censoring someone is when you know your own ideas are so weak and feeble they can't be defended, and hoping the other ideas will just go away. If you truly believe your ideas are just and right, offer them up for debate and dissuade others with them. And he's absolutely right. If you have the moral high ground, if you are justified, if you are right, you don't need to censor anyone. You don't need to stop them from speaking. Hell, even Angela Merkel, yes, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, is coming out and saying that this latest banning of U.S. President Donald Trump is, quote, problematic. And if you really do think about it, there are other despots, there are dictators, there are world leaders that commit the worst human atrocities that still are allowed to use the platform, but Donald Trump isn't. And also, when did the left become champions of private businesses, saying that they could just do whatever they want, when in reality they're not private businesses? They're tied into intelligence agencies, especially with startup companies like In-Q-Tel and other partnership programs that they currently work in and coincide their ever-growing relationship in. If they now believe businesses could do what they want, why can't they just open back up? That, of course, is not an agenda. That, of course, is not a part of the narrative that they want you hearing about. They will flip-flop on issues because the issues don't matter. Absolute power does, and that's why they're taking down individuals like Ron Paul, that, again, has been very critical of U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, from here, obviously, all the recipes that created this monstrosity of a situation that we're all in is only going to get worse with this censorship, as, of course, There's going to be more protests. There's already one scheduled right now at Twitter headquarters. There's even talks of another armed rally planned in all 50 state capitals on either January 16th or the 20th. As someone who has been warning about this violence coming and it's here, as someone who doesn't want to see more violence, we need to stop what's creating it. It's sick and disgusting seeing people cheer on the death of their political enemies. As again, we all saw this coming. We were warning you on this channel, telling you that this violence is coming to a head. We did our best to spread the word so we could try to stop it. We failed, and I legitimately feel bad for that. When you see things coming, you do your best to stop it, and when you can't, you just feel let down. And I have to send out the warning signs again. There's only going to be more of this chaos and insanity moving forward because the ingredients that created them, they're still being poured on. Until we deal with those circumstances, with those situations, and not making it worse, you know where it's only going to go from here. That's my message. If you appreciated it, if you liked it, thank you so much for supporting us on wearechange.org/donate. If you like this video, share it with your friends and family members. It is more imperative than ever. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.